Hi, in this video we're going to talk about Canada's melting pot. It's the largest, busiest city in the country and one of the most expensive cities to live in North America. I'm talking about Toronto, Ontario, and in this video it's going to be a heavy hitter for you guys because I'm going to get into just how expensive it is to live here. Is it worth it? Is it fun? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it safe? Stay tuned because I'm about to drop the good, the bad, and the ugly. These are your top 10 pros and cons of living in Toronto, Ontario. First time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living, working, eating, sleeping, playing in Toronto, Ontario, and the surrounding areas across the Greater Toronto Area, then subscribe below so you can be the first to know about the current market in Toronto, Ontario. My name is Rochelle. For the last 7 years, I've been helping people just like you make that move to Toronto, Ontario, and I love it. As a real estate agent here, I want to help you make that move. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, then make sure to give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, or even schedule a Zoom call, and I'll be happy to help you make a smooth move to Toronto. So let's get into it. Let's start off with the cons of living in Toronto, and let's get right into the biggest issue that people are facing when trying to make a move to the city is that house prices are expensive, crazy expensive. So for example, a 1-bedroom condo is going to run you about $450,000. A 2-bedroom town will cost you about $860,000. A 3-bed semi will likely go for about $1.34 million. And then a 4-bed detached house, just like this one here, will easily run you a cool $2 million. So it is not cheap to live here, but there are definitely some neighborhoods throughout the city that are less expensive than others. And so if you plan on making a move here, just make sure that you have a good realtor to help you find the best home to fit your budget. Someone like me. However, that does go hand in hand with my next con, which is the high cost of living. Here in Toronto, it's high. Not only are the housing prices high, but your other typical monthly expenses like the transportation, food, those aren't cheap either. To get by in Toronto, a person needs to be earning a salary of $40,000 before tax per year to meet the standard cost of living. Now, number 3, Toronto is ranked as having the worst traffic in Canada. TalkTalk.com did a study that showed that on average here, a Toronto driver spends 6 days of their life sitting in traffic. That's the equivalent of 71 NBA games. And so, if you're a Raptors fan and you missed a game, it's probably because you were stuck in traffic. And hand in hand with traffic, parking can be a challenge too. You've got all of these one-way streets, you're driving around looking for a spot, you find a garage and it's expensive too. What most people do after, say, 20-30 minutes of not finding street parking is they either suck it up, pay the $6 an hour for a parking garage, or $25 for the day is the average for garages downtown. They sacrifice and just park, further away and walk to where they need to go instead, or they park somewhere where they shouldn't and maybe risk getting a ticket. That's just how it is. But number 5 is pollution, because with all of that traffic and congestion, and I'm talking people and vehicular traffic, because remember that Toronto has close to 3 million people, you're naturally going to find a lot of pollution here. The air quality isn't that great. There's a lot of smog, and on a hazy day downtown, it might be hard to even see the CN Tower because of all that smog. So that's how bad it is. Now, not a deal breaker though, it's just something to be mindful of if you have asthma or the like, is that the city can get pretty smoggy at times. And by the way, Toronto can get quite humid in the summer months as well, so just keep that in mind. Now, unfortunately, winters are not all that great either. Now, Toronto is stereotypically Canadian. I mean, it's cold, it snows, so it's all expected. But it's not as extreme as other parts of Canada, but it can be quite severe, where the temperature can be -15, but then throw in the wind chill and it feels more like -30. It's very cold. Plus, winters here are very, very long. You can expect around 4 months of winter weather from beginning December to end of March. And then there's usually a short spring season, April, May, where the sun just sprinkles on you and it's a breath of fresh air. And then summer kicks in full force come mid-June, and it seems to come so quickly that Torontonians are scrambling to make quick plans to do a weekend at the cottage or a beach getaway just to make use of the short time that they have under the sun. The next con is that Toronto is huge. It can be very intimidating just because of its sheer size. It's a huge city and it's going to take some time to learn how to navigate your way around. I've lived in the GTA my whole life, and there's still some neighborhoods that I pass through where it's like, I've never been here before. It's kind of surreal, you know? So for anyone coming to the city for the first time, or at least your first little while here, then keep your phone charged because Google Maps will be your best friend. Now, finding childcare, that's another con. That's the next thing that you need to know about Toronto, is that finding childcare is not going to be easy. If you are a parent and you need to send your kid to daycare, then you're going to need to set that up way in advance. Put yourself on the wait list for many different daycares several months before your baby's even born. I have friends who put themselves on wait lists at 10, 15 different centers and got maybe 1 or 2 callbacks a year later from places that finally had openings. And so if you have young kids in your family, then just expect long wait times to finally get your kid into daycare. Now, it's equally challenging to find a family doctor in Toronto because with, like I said, 3 million people close to or living in the Toronto proper, that's a lot of people who potentially need access to healthcare. Now, the reality is that there just aren't enough doctors to meet the demands of the city. So just like finding childcare, when it comes to finding healthcare and a general practitioner or a pediatrician specifically, same thing, you want to put yourself on several different wait lists, do a Google search ahead of time just to make sure that these places are actually accepting new patients, and then expect that you are going to be waiting on average anywhere between 6 to 18 months just to become a new patient. My final con is that Torontonians are not known to be the friendliest of people. I mean, in Canada in general, yes, we do have a reputation for being like the friendliest country in the world. But when you talk to other Canadians, and not just outside of Ontario, but even outside of the GTA, Torontonians do have a rep for having their nose in the air, like their city is better than the rest. Now, obviously that isn't true for everyone, but relatively speaking, you aren't going to get those relaxed, easygoing vibes that are common on the West Coast, or that small town hospitality feel that you do in the Maritimes. That's just because it's a very different energy in Toronto. People are rushing to go to work, they have meetings that they're late for, there's a lot of traffic to contend with. I lived in the GTA my whole life, except for 2 years when I moved to Ottawa. And one of my first days there, a man said hello to me in the grocery store, and I just quickly rushed to my car. I called my husband right away because I honestly thought that this guy was gonna follow me home or rob me. Like, what is he saying hi to me for? I mean, it turns out that he was just a normal guy and I freaked out over nothing, but that's just because I wasn't used to people being so friendly. All right, now for some of the pros of living in Toronto. What makes this city so beautiful? Why, despite all the cons that I just mentioned, are people choosing to move to Toronto and call the city home? Well, let's start off with number 1. Toronto is a world leader for diversity and multiculturalism. Half of Torontonians are immigrants from other countries. Half of Torontonians are a visible minority. Schools celebrate diversity and they teach kids to welcome all ethnicities, races, genders, religions. Multiculturalism is an integral part of life in Toronto. You see it in the neighborhoods. Toronto is home to areas like Chinatown, Greektown, Little Italy. There's an LGBT area at Church and Wellesley that hosts a pride parade. It's one of the biggest in the world. And the nice thing about all these different neighborhoods is that Toronto has done such a good job of integrating the neighborhoods so that no matter where you are, you feel welcome in any part of town. It's not like, in other states, for example, where, New York, for example, their neighborhoods will feel a little segregated. You don't get that in Toronto. Their motto is diversity, our strength. And so with all that diversity and different cultures and ethnicities, you're also going to get a lot of flavor. Toronto is known for having an epic food scene. Literally, some of the best cuisines in Canada you can find right outside your front doorstep. Everything from Indian butter chicken to the best pad thai outside of Thailand. There are so many amazing local shops and restaurants to choose from. There's also been a growing trend of, over the last 5-10 years of healthy eating that Toronto got in tune with. So it's common to see vendors offering green eating, organic whole foods, locally sourced produce, and packaging that's environmentally environmentally friendly. It is not just bacon, poutine, and maple syrup here, my friends. Toronto is the perfect place to add a little more spice to your life. Outside of dining, there are plenty of entertainment options. Toronto is a hustling and bustling city that you can never get bored in. Toronto's got a bunch of big teams in major leagues, the Raptors, the Leafs, the Blue Jays, so you can really catch a game and just root for your favorite players. The Rogers Centre is a massive arena that musicians like Michael Jackson, Madonna, Bruce Springsteen, Taylor Swift, they've all performed in Toronto, and it is a stop on many artists' world tours, so that's amazing. If you're a film buff, then Toronto is home to TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival. Toronto has an amazing nightlife as well. There is bar after bar after bar that line Queen Street West, and then plenty of nightclubs to get your party on King Street West. And if you're looking for something more family focused, then there's the CN Tower, of course, Ripley's Aquarium, High Park, or even just walking along the waterfront and enjoying the gorgeous views of Lake Ontario. There's a lot to do and experience in Toronto, and I truly hope that if you do ever make your way here, that you get to experience a lot of those things. My biggest recommendation for families, singles, and couples alike is Center Island. It's one of my favorite places to be in the city. You can take a ferry there from the harbor front, and then you end up on this magical island with a lot of greenery. I'm talking very well manicured lawns. There's water, beach, picnics. You can rent tandem bikes and go for a canoe ride. And you get the most amazing views of the Toronto skyline. This place is incredible. You definitely need to check it out. Now, I mentioned that one of the cons of living in Toronto was high house prices. Despite that, there are still lots of different neighborhoods to choose from. And the beautiful thing is that each of these different neighborhoods come with their own personality and vibe. Yorkville, for example, is the fashion district where you'll find a lot of designer boutiques offering, Chanel, Tiffany, Hermes. Kensington Market, it's an incredible street market that really reflects the wide diversity of Toronto, with a lot of Caribbean, Latinos, Europeans, and Vietnamese vendors selling delicious ethnic snacks, boho vintage clothing, and having lively market stalls. The Distillery District, that's another National Historic Site, and it's a pedestrian-only walking area. And it also has a wide variety of eateries, art galleries, and event venues. And then the Annex, they have a more laid-back, chill, youthful atmosphere with casual eateries and pubs. So basically, no matter your taste and your lifestyle, Toronto has a neighborhood for you. And if you're looking to move to the city, then make sure to give me a call so I can help you narrow down a neighborhood that suits your budget. All of my contact information is down below. And then for everyone, make sure that if you're liking this video to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, because it does help me continue to put out more content just like this and helping people just like you make a smooth move to Toronto. The fifth thing you need to know is that Toronto is the epicenter of business and culture in Canada. Toronto is the economic heart of Canada, and so many large brands have their headquarters in Toronto, and many large businesses are in the downtown core, making the city ideal for business professionals. In recent years, Toronto has also emerged as one of the hottest tech markets in North America, bringing in tech workers from all around the world. So that also leads me to my next point, which is that because Toronto is home to a thriving business scene, you're also going to have an abundance of that entrepreneurial mindset as well. And so the city is known for having a huge startup scene too, particularly in the tech space. They did a study that estimated that Toronto's startup scene is actually worth $17 billion. And so to nurture the future success of these young companies and to promote the opening of more startup companies, the city offers early stage funding at nearly 3 times the global average. So there's a lot of support out there for startups to help you reach your optimal potential. If you do want to make a lot of money in a great career that you love, then luckily Toronto is home to the best, or one of the best, education systems in the world. In terms of post-secondary options, you have everything from prestigious and expensive to affordable and pragmatic. World-class institutions like the University of Toronto are ranked not just top in Canada, but some of the best in the world. And some schools offer incredible specialized programs like journalism at Ryerson University, or even more practical hands-on training like graphic design at Humber College. So if you want to further your knowledge in Toronto, then you've got options. It all just depends on your goals and resources. Now, I grew up in Toronto, like I mentioned, and I find that has made me a little more thick-skinned when visiting other cities that other people might be nervous of. But I think it's safe to say that in general, Toronto is a pretty safe city. You don't hear of too much gun violence, and when you do, it's honestly a shock to hear on the news, because it's like, How did you even get a gun? It's just so unheard of here. There isn't a heavy gang culture here either. It's not like, other big cities in the States, for example, New York and LA, or you see it in the movies, but that's just not the vibe here. I used to have a job where I would work the night shift and I'd be working on, or I'd be walking on Queen Street, which is right part of downtown. And I'd be there in the middle of the night getting a snack. And I mean, yes, you are going to run into people with drug problems, people who are homeless that might approach you and make you feel a little uncomfortable. But statistically, the crime rate here is very low, especially given that Toronto is a major city. And so all in all, it is a great place to live. As long as you stay alert and you carry yourself decently, then you will feel safe walking alone even at night on your own. The ninth pro about living in Toronto is that it's easy to get away for holidays or a break because you've got access to 2 different airports within less than an hour's commute. Billy Bishop on the Toronto Island, it's nice and clean and offers domestic flights within Canada and to the US. And then although not in the city of Toronto itself, there's also Pearson International, which is Canada's largest and busiest airport. You can quickly reach there using the direct GO train line that runs from Union Station downtown and goes straight to the airport. That'll likely take you roughly 50 minutes, maybe an hour tops. And then last but not least, Toronto has a great healthcare system. In Canada, in general, getting access to healthcare is free. You go to a hospital or a clinic and you can get MRIs, x-rays, all done at no charge. And that's great. But what I'm talking about specifically in terms of Toronto is that they are home to some of the top doctors and surgeons in the world. People travel long and far distances to see specialists here in Toronto. Some of the most intelligent, skillful, and compassionate doctors from some of the highest rated hospitals around the world have called Toronto their home, and many people live better, healthier, and longer lives because of them. And so there you have it. Those are your top 10 pros and cons of living in Toronto, Ontario. And if you are thinking of making a move to Toronto yourself, whether it's in 9 days or 90 days, then I'd love to help you out. Give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, or even schedule a Zoom call, all down in the description below. Like I said, I'd love to help you make a smooth move to Toronto. Until then, feel free to check out one of my other videos that I posted on Toronto. It's how to buy a house in Toronto, especially if you're a first-time home buyer and you need help navigating the system, then I've got that in check for you. Check it out right now. But until then, I will see you guys around town. Thank you so much for watching. Until then, stay safe, everybody.